Of course, I hit the record button and Agnes gets up like she needs something, which she doesn't. Hi, readers, it's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper, or welcome if this is your first time. I'm just happy that all of you are here. I've been unable to film some content as I would normally film in the last few days. So I'm happy to be back today, but I'm also happy, so happy to be talking about a book that has recently completely changed me in ways that I was not expecting. Although I should have expected it based on the reviews and the comments I was getting from each of you. So we're going to just talk about this book that I read in the Big Book Summer Readathon, and one that I have been wanting to read for years. So backlist beating and readathon achievement 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I have to say that I did not want to just talk about this in a reading wrap up for the end of June because this is a 10-star read for me. I have to say it bumped out All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker for what I thought was going to be my number one read of 2025. Now, this could get bumped out by something else this year, but I doubt it. I really, really do. This one will, some people say this one will rent space in my head forever. This one will stay with me in a way that really, I don't know, it hits me deep. It's all through me. I know, I feel like an evangelist here, but I know that some of you who are watching this video now understand exactly what I'm saying because this is incredible. I was so blown away by it. I thought I would struggle with getting through it. And in fact, I could hardly wait to be able to stop work or whatever it was I was doing to get back to it. Now, this one is maybe the biggest book I've read for a really long time. In terms of, and I actually just watched the series the other day, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So I put a bookmark back in because I wanted to reread something. But this is 849 pages, which is essentially just his afterword as well. But okay, so yes, this was very, very heavy. Did I read the physical book? Yes, at times I did. At times I read it on ebook as well. So I did a combination, and there was a short period of time where I was getting to the end and just wanted to finish that I listened to it on my way back and forth to my kids when I was taking care of the dogs and the chickens while they were away. So I appreciated being able to listen to it now and again as well. Oh my goodness, did this surprise me. So if you haven't seen my other videos talking about getting ready to read it, or if you haven't talked to anyone about this book ever, welcome to the conversation. You're going to love this. And here's what this book is about. So this follows Jake Epping. I don't even have to look. This follows Jake Epping, who is a young guy. He has recently divorced. His wife, Christy, was an alcoholic, and he is teaching adults and I think he's teaching adults English or literature or something in that regard. I'm not really sure, but we do know that it isn't, for example, mathematics, or I don't think it's social studies either. And the book really opens with his love of teaching and his experience with one particular student who had a really difficult experience in his life, and he wrote about this experience in an essay. And he was one of the janitors at the school. He was not a prolific writer in any way, but he brought forward his whole self into this space and into sharing this thing that changed his life, right? So remember Jake Epping, he's a teacher. He's also kind of still grieving over what's changed his life, which is the loss of his wife and the sort of recovering from that. And he goes into Al's diner because he's been to Al's diner forever. Al has the cheapest hamburgers in town. He lives in Maine. Of course he does because it's Stephen King and small town in Maine. And what I want you to know about this too is that he also discovers that something weird has happened to Al within minutes of their conversation. So they have a conversation. Al fills up his glass of tea or whatever it is, and he goes back in the kitchen. And when he comes out, he looks completely different. He is clearly very ill. And Jake is struggling to try to find out how this happened. What would cause this to have occurred in like 2 minutes? All right. Well, you probably know what has occurred. Al obviously is not himself. Jake is freaking out. Al looks like he's aged 50 years. He's sick. He's coughing up blood. Al says he'll explain everything to him, but what he wants him to do is go through this portal in the storeroom of the diner and see what happens for himself and then come back through the portal again. And he explains how to do that and then they'll talk. So he does, and he transports back into the 1950s when he goes through the portal. And it's completely different. It's the same space in which the diner is, but everything has changed. Everything's the 1950s. Cars, people singing, music, everything different. That when he comes back, that Al says, I want you to have an interaction with Lee Harvey Oswald that will change the course of history. And will you accept the challenge? This is all of that and more. Okay. This is not just a speculative fiction novel, although it is because it's about time travel. This is a historical fiction novel because it is about the 50s and a time maybe 10 years ago for us as well. It is not horror in my mind, which is interesting, but because of the way that it's written and because of what happens, there are some dark, difficult, violent experiences that I want you to be aware of for your own sensitivity. There is also the relationships that Jake builds in this book are unforgettable and are so skillfully created. These characters are incredibly deep and robust, and you end up just feeling so much of the feels for all of these people and for what's happened and for Jake, who then, is really just floundering in this, like, what in the world has just happened? And what am I going to do? Am I actually going to do this? It was so good. As always, in every King novel, there are Easter eggs. So you do return to some people from other books before. And I was delighted when that happened. I always am. It's just incredible the way that he weaves them in. So not just characters, but also just some other little Easter eggs that you will notice here as well. But this is so unique. I don't know that I've ever read a book that's in this genre that impacted me as much as this one did. Now, you ask yourself why. I'm going to put this down for just a second. I think I've shared with you before, but some of you may not have seen this. When I was a child, JFK was assassinated when I was 2 years old. And most of us don't have a lot of memories of when we were 2 years old unless they were traumatic. And to be quite honest, this one was for me because I remember I was watching TV, which we had this like kitchen and then we had a den that my dad built on, but because it had a window, you could see through the window to see the TV in the den. And so I was sitting at the table, I was watching TV and my mom was watching TV. I wasn't watching TV, except that I sort of was a little bit. I mean, I'm sure I'd remember if I were able to go back into those memories that would be there. But what I do remember is my mom was crying and I had bugs in my Cheerios. Ironically, I had Cheerios this morning and I thought about that. She didn't see them when she poured the Cheerios out. That happened more in those days, I think, than it does now with packaging being the way that it is. But she freaked out, cried even more because there were bugs in my Cheerios, ants, I think. And yeah, so I remember that. But then I also remember later we were in the den sitting watching TV and the news was on and I was playing with my toys and my dad was sitting nearby. My mom was too. And Jack Ruby came into the hallway and shot Lee Harvey Oswald. And my dad grabbed me, covered my eyes, thinking I had seen it, which I don't think that I did see it. I remember being jarred by the fact that I was being picked up so suddenly and that I remember it being, again, an intense experience. So it's stuck in my memory all these years. Now, I will say that I didn't necessarily identify what that was until later when I started learning about the fact that he had been assassinated, and I sort of put it together with, oh, I wonder if that's what happened when we were crying. And I remember the funeral procession weirdly on the TV. My mom watched that as well. And so, yeah, it was just like these weird snippets that we have of memory as children. Most of us don't remember things when we were super young. I actually do have multiple memories of my 2 to 3 to 4 year old self, but the 2 to 3 year old memories are usually not some that we carry with us unless they were extremely happy, extremely amazing, or extremely difficult and traumatic. And this one indeed was traumatic. So that's why I think my obsession with JFK, and probably why my love of this book is so strong. I really had this memory, and we talked about that incident a lot in my youth and with my sisters, and we talked about it a lot because it was absolutely an event that changed the course of history. I recently had the opportunity, in fact, I used the cup today that I got from the museum, but I recently had the opportunity to go to the JFK Museum. I said that in another video when I talked about getting ready to read this, and I was able to see a lot of information about JFK again, but it then goes on to say what his legacy was after. And I thought about that in that moment. I was like, it's terribly tragic that he died, but what an incredible tribute to this man, because so many amazing things occurred as a result of the work that he started in his brief period of time as president. So incredible. I have stood on the grassy knoll. I have been in the book depository. I'm about to try to do that again this year because my partner has not been able to do that, and I would love to bring her there to do it as well. She's also read this book. She read this book a while ago, but I just can't say enough about how fascinated I am and in tune I am to this president, but also to what occurred to cause his death and to change our lives as American citizens in so many ways. Now, the series, it is on Tubi, I think. I think it was Tubi. It's free. It's one season series. I think it's 10 episodes. I just watched it the other night. I did not love the series. Now, sometimes people, I'm sure, do, and I'm not judging anybody for loving it, but having just read the book and then going into the shortening of the series and the things that were not there, like I thought to myself, they could have expanded this into 3, 4, 5 seasons. Like the book, really just took this and it was just with it the whole time, with it, step after step after step, choice after choice after choice. The series just didn't quite feel that way for me. I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it in the way that I loved the book. I did like some of the things that happened that were true to the story. There were some other things that I was like, that wouldn't have been easy to do, or would that have really happened? There's some people in the series that weren't in the book, and that just messed it up for me. I think that was the part I had the hardest time with, was that there was a whole nother character that I was not expecting to be in this. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like I'd wasted my time watching the 10 episodes in any way, but I just wouldn't necessarily recommend that to you to the level that I recommend this. It's just apples and pretzels. It's just not at all the same. That is my tribute to what I think is going to be the best book I have read in 2025. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't read this, again, I highly recommend that you do. And if you have, feel free to say whatever you'd like in the comments below. Again, I've seen lots of comments already as a result of me saying I was going to read it. So that made me very, very happy. But you guys were absolutely right. This was maybe, yeah. I mean, it is. It's going to stay with me. It's at the top. It's the top for sure. So it will be with me forever. Thanks again so much for watching this video, for being with me throughout the process, for your patience when I am have to be away and have to focus on other things. And as always, happy reading. Bye.